Hi there, Wieke. It's Andrew here, ready to correct your first essays. Well done for getting these in. They already look very well structured. What we'll be doing is moving through them sentence by sentence and offering you corrections on grammar and, I suppose, the smoothness of expressing ideas. I'll talk about the requirements of each section of the essay and how well you met them. The most effective way to work through these is to correct your own work along with my suggestions. Each time you'll find that you're making some mistakes more frequently than others, and the hope by the end of the course is to reduce these to none. You're still allowed plenty of mistakes in a band 7, but if you would like to score anything above that, mistakes have to be almost none. So the first thing that's required in your intro, well, 3 things actually, is that you discuss the contention, so both sides of the argument, give your opinion, and then outline the ideas that you will use in the essay. So first, instead of using a background sentence like this, I would launch straight into the discussion. I would say something like, there is much discussion surrounding the development of skills and imagination in children, comma, and whether this can be better achieved through reading or more enjoyable activities. Personally, I believe that enjoyable activities contribute more to skills development than reading, due to modern technology such as video games and the physical capabilities that can be developed through sport. That would be a perfect intro to this essay. The reason I've corrected it is because you frequently referred to activities, but it's more about enjoyment. The key word is enjoyable in the sentence. We're talking about whether activities that are more engaging and are more enjoyable than reading can be better for skills and imagination than reading. I mean, personally, I think reading is very enjoyable, so I've always had a bit of a problem with this question, but we must always answer the question that we've been asked. Next, we don't need this comma here before such as, so we can just say, reading has numerous advantages such as the, let's say, the development of intellect. Developing intellect is fine, but we're referring formally to the idea. So the development of intellect would be ever so slightly better. I would not use this here. I would use something like more specifically, because we're expanding a point. More specifically, playing on games consoles develops. Anytime you think of a sentence that includes the word can, usually it can be left out. So here we could say, playing on games consoles develops skills that reading alone I'm just trying to rephrase this. So playing on games consoles develops skills that reading alone is unable to do so, or is unable to achieve. I just don't like finishing sentences with prepositions. If we say progressing, it's considered slightly informal. Also, we could say here, or we could even condense this into one sentence. Playing on games consoles develops skills that reading alone would be unable to achieve due to the reflexive and spatial awareness abilities required by electronic games, or by the active participation of electronic games. For instance, A study from Oxford University. Oxford is a city, a town, so we must refer specifically to the university. A study from Oxford University proved that children who played more than 1 hour each day on a games console outperformed their counterparts by 20% in tests that required cognitive abilities. That's good. Very good. Consequently, despite the skills developed by reading alone, it is clear that playing on consoles provides more advantages. Secondly, the skills developed through sport. So again, with do, get, can, have, they're quite simple words, and normally there's a grammatical construction that allows us to not use them. So here we could say, secondly, the skills developed through sport are many more than the small number of skills developed through reading. This is due to the fact that sports develop both cognitive and physical abilities, as well as social skills, due to the team component. For instance, a study from Harvard noticed that children playing team sports regularly, we don't need this comma, had more social and physical skills than their equivalents. We need a measurement here. If you're going to refer to a study, we need to know by what proportion they outperformed, and how was it measured, and what specific area was it measured in. So we need a clearer example here. Therefore, it is clear that the advantages of sports, or of sporting activities, provide significant advantages in multiple areas that are neglected by reading alone. To conclude, I firmly believe that entertaining activities develop greater skills and imagination than simply reading. I would recommend that parents commit to including entertaining activities as part of their children's development. Then what we have is a very clear idea, well expressed and well considered. So let's move on to your next piece. So I'll move through this one slightly faster to give your brain a chance to exercise. So, some people claim that communication between family members has decreased over the last decade. In my opinion, the opposite is true. And this is too short a sentence to use here. I would just say, in my opinion, the opposite is true, as the increased uptake of electronic gadgets has increased the frequency of communication amongst relatives. Additionally, I would say, because I'm looking at this paragraph, and I think it needs more. So why is this happening? If you want to talk about the generation gap becoming smaller, is it happening because of the increased access to information? So everybody has the same easy and free access to information, and so the minds of the generations are becoming more similar. It's easier for them to relate. So we should include that idea as well, if that was the idea that we wanted to include here. Additionally, increased access to information has narrowed the generation gap, making private and personal conversations easier between parents and children. So briefly outline the ideas that you intend to consider. your introduction here as well. Firstly, contact between relatives has increased due to numerous new technological means. So if you want to refer to the methods by which you're going to do something, you can say that it's the technological means by which we're going to do something. So contact between relatives has increased due to the variety of, we really should say the new technological means of doing so, but let's say, we could say due to the increased uptake of electronic communication gadgets or electronic communication tools. This is because these new gadgets enable us to stay in contact in a way that was not possible before. We don't need this colon here. We could say this is because these new gadgets and platforms, such as Facebook, WhatsApp, and whatever, pick another one, enable us to stay in contact in a way that was not possible before. For instance, a study from Harvard shows that parents and children communicate more during the day nowadays, whereas in the past, work and school, or the separation created by work and school, would make this impossible. So a bit more reasoning, a bit more background to your ideas to show why this is happening. So here as well I would say, therefore, the increased frequency of communication between relatives has certainly benefited familial contact. So here as well, we need to introduce the idea. So this is the core idea of the essay, not the idea of the paragraph. The core idea of your essay is that family members have strengthened their communication. But now we need an idea as to why that's happening. So we could say, secondly, equal access to free information means that it is easier for parents and children to communicate. This increased ability to understand different generations has improved personal conversations between parents and children. This is borne out by a study from the Social Department of the Netherlands, who found that parents and children had 30% more personal conversations than families only 30 years ago. Consequently, the connections between family members have become not only more frequent, but closer. To conclude, from the examples and arguments given, I firmly believe that communication between relatives has improved. Anytime we find ourselves using a negative sentence with the word not, there's normally a positive way to say it. So we could just say, has improved. In the future, I believe this trend will continue due to ever-increasing technology and the narrowing gap between generations. Done. So I think a combination of two things. We need to increase the information density in your sentences with additional reasoning to show the full thought behind your idea. And also, reduce the number of informal words you use, such as when you talk about doing sports or doing sports can do this. When instead of saying doing sports can improve, we can just say sports improve. So certainly it's just a more academic method of writing. So work through these, correct your own work, have a good think about it, submit your next pieces, and I'll have them back to you as quickly as possible. All the best, Wieke. Speak soon.